Welcome, friends, to another burning hot stove edition of the Cyber Mettle Podcast. Hey, I'm following all the free agent stuff in different various sports lanes. So, hot stove it is. As always, we're here trying to, I think, dig into. It's going to be one of those, I think, uncomfortable conversations that we're going to have. But it's been at the tip of my tongue for a minute. Omar Sangurima, joined as always by
Yeah, with
Alyson Laderman.
Allison. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll say, well, sorry, it's that day.
It's all
Hi.
good. It's all good. Come on.
It hasn't been just you and me for a while. So,
That's
you
true.
know, we
Right.
got to get back into our vibe and our flow.
Exactly.
But, our normal disclaimer as we get into this is though Omar is a cybersecurity expert and I am a lawyer. We are not your cybersecurity expert or lawyer for purpose of the podcast. But we're here to share knowledge, wisdom, stuff that we have. Oh, goodness. This topic is something both of us have been discussing actively for at least a couple of years. And we are really seeing it come to a head at this point. If you look at the dialogue on LinkedIn, the working Reddit.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But if, even the one we both saw yesterday, right? Where somebody nailed this right on the head
Hmm.
and said, yep, don't come at me, but here's what's going on in the industry. And we're talking about the cybersecurity professional industry. I think people are really understanding it's not just oh, I see a problem and it's a talking point, but we need to do something about it. And so with that, why don't we jump into today's topic? And Omar, I'm gonna have you start this one off with a bit more specificity. So I know you like to call it, learning to do more gate busting versus gatekeeping. And I figured you could start from there and give a little bit about how you started when you first kind of started seeing the problem of not having entry level jobs in the cybersecurity industry and what you and your organization have worked to build through that. And then things that other organizations, let's talk about that as well, what they can do to also combat this problem after we, I guess, identify the problem.
Well, here's it. This is one of those topics that's just been really near and dear to my heart, burning up for a minute. I met one of my closest friends in the industry. We had him on as a guest, Jose Toledo. I met him through teaching. That was one of those, we were both trying to we were passionate about the subject. We want to teach, we want to upskill folks. And that's where the phrase really came from. I just one day I think he said something slick and great and funny. And I was like, I gotta match that energy. So, when we were doing intros to a set of potential career changers, folks that were getting education through their current employer, they wanted to take a look at cybersecurity. Back then, we're talking like 5 years ago now. This is nuts. About 5 years. I can't believe it. I've known him for 5 years. 5 years ago now, still very much the mantra in the industry was, "There's so many job openings. There's a worker shortage. There's a skill shortage. Come here and get rich. We can make all your dreams come true," like Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. "If you vote for me, Pedro will make all your dreams come true." And no, I won't be shaving my head, because my head's not that hot. Like, it's fine. I don't need to. Again, deep reference to that movie. I love that movie. But
But can we get you to do the dance from Napoleon Dynamite?
absolutely, listen, I have too much natural rhythm. It's hard to like shut it off, I think is the thing. Like, I can't not clap on the proper beat. So it's tough. Really. It's
Pay to see that on the outtakes. I'm just
right.
saying.
In terms of, yeah,
On the YouTube,
on
stay
the
tuned for the end.
Patreon or something, right? Where it's like additional subscribers can get to see me try to hop around on one leg. But it's it's this topic of, and it's marketing, black dark arts, black magic, in my opinion, to, I think, supplement a lot of the snake oil salespeople that come in and say, if you take this course, or if you do this stuff quickly, or I have 6 steps to get you 6 figures or whatnot. It's just, listen, I mean, it didn't work for abs. I tried it, right? 6 minutes didn't get you abs. It's just anything worthwhile is going to potentially take a while to be worth it. It and so I said that phrase, more gate busting, less gatekeeping, because also it ties back to when I was a career switcher, so about 12 years ago now. I looked into the universe. I got into, one of those scenes that you see as like the card stock for pictures, right? Where
Mhm.
it's a sunset and you're asking the gods to help you out. And I said, if I make it into cybersecurity, I promise to not pull the ladder up behind me. I was trying to break in, studied, like the big story, right? Studied for the Sec Plus for 9 months. No need. I was just so nervous. I said, if I don't make this, my family's gonna, tell me to be a shoe salesman. I don't know, like Al Bundy. Like just it's gonna say like figure something out and stay put, son. So but back then, I made that promise. I got in, and so it's been a burning topic. Met Jose through this, and that's where the phrase came from. But again, it was take this course, try to upskill. There's tons of appetite. There's tons of need for bodies and skilled people in cybersecurity. And on the flip side, like a bad myth is so pervasive because there's still a little bit of the ring of truth to it, right? So, bad rumor can take hold, especially if it's slightly close to the truth, because anyone in cyber is going to say, "Hey, for sure, we need more hands on deck. This stuff is a mess." What we were just talking about, right off camera, of like, there's it's mad real. Weeks just seem to turn into monstrous to do lists. So there's around the problem, there's enough truisms where if you don't squint and really look at the fine print, as lawyers and cyber experts like to do, then you could be convinced, sure, of course, there's, all my people in cyber know that there's a lot to do and not enough bodies. Folks want to get in. So of course there has to be, wait a second. No, it's not the case. You take a closer look, you put the rock upside down and you see that there's grime underneath. This conception that there's just not enough skilled people to get into these roles, and we have all these open roles, and that was before our friend artificial intelligence walked into the room. That was even before GPT went nuts, and we started to see the rise and
Right.
fall of LLMs and agentic and all that. So here we are. We know there's a lot of people that want to break in. You and I both know this, and I think most of the industry folks know that there's tons. All you have to do is post one job for cybersecurity anywhere, and hundreds, if not thousands, of applications. I repost stuff. It's not even mine. People know where I work, and they go, "Hey, wait a second," and it hits me. I know what it's like to be there, and I think we're selling an absolute bundle of wolf tickets to a population that would desperately like to try and show their skills, break in, give them a chance, but we're pumping out a narrative, or we're sustaining one that's patently false.
So a couple of points in there, right? I in December spoke with a good friend of mine who does hiring, placement,
Mhm.
recruiting, that kind of thing for cyber jobs specifically. And big companies come to him because they trust that he makes sure that people are trained and that their
Mhm.
skills really do meet what they're looking
Sure.
for, because they don't want to spend the time and money bringing somebody on board who can't do the work. And at that time of December 2025, he said there were over 514,000 open cybersecurity positions, but 97.6% of those jobs required a minimum of 3 years experience, meaning there's no entry level jobs, right? How do you get to that mid level if there's no entry level? And so I think there's you and I have talked about this, I know, a lot over the last couple of years. And I think it's definitely worth fleshing out kind of what problems we're seeing in that industry are, right? You've got lots of schools who are now shifting into cybersecurity because they are saying, this is the job. This is what you need, and you're going to make six figures. Some of them are even getting rid of computer science and turning it into just cybersecurity, which I think we can probably both agree as professionals here that that's probably not a good idea.
Bonkers.
Yeah, got to have some foundation, folks. You got to know what you're securing. But okay, that aside, technicalities. The other part of it is we're seeing, as you point out, the rise of AI, both whether it's being used to help secure things, but also to compromise things. But it's also being used for parsing all of those job applicants, which then throws out people who may be qualified because
Mhm.
in cybersecurity, this was a conversation I was just having with somebody earlier this week. There are so many different names and titles for so many different positions and roles that if it's not an exact match, AI is not going to go, that's close enough. Where a human would go, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, I know that's a lateral role. I know that that's a comparable set of skills that work from this title to that title. And so AI kind of funneling through applications is causing a problem. And then, of course, the one we all know is those that are writing the requirements, it's all unicorns and fluff, right? They want 5 years experience. They want CISSP, but they're going to pay you entry level salary and call it entry level. Well, if there's anything over 0 years experience or 0 to 2, that is not entry level type of situation. And so even if schools are able to do internships for a period of time, that's not going to be enough time to say, I have 3 years experience. You've only
Mhm.
got 4 years of college if you're doing that degree. And of course, not everybody needs a degree, or at least they didn't back in the day to get into cyber. And so we're
Mhm.
seeing that shift in requirements, but not the match in the pay or the skills or the titles. And so everything I think is just missing each other. And then, of course, add to that, right? You've seen it as well. Organizations saying, I don't want to take time to train. They need
Mhm.
to come in ready
Mhm.
and they need to be value add on day one. And I can tell you, even as a 20+ year lawyer, it doesn't matter what company I went into. Yes. Can I practice as a lawyer on day one? Yes. Am I going to know every file, every client, the company's politics, the culture of the organization, how they want things done, how their computer system works, how it
Mhm.
doesn't work, what the expect? Of course not. There's always a 6 month ramp up on anywhere you go. Doesn't matter what field you're in. You've got to get comfortable with those things. That kind of misunderstanding, or I don't even say misunderstand that. Honestly, it's a ridiculous concept of you're gonna
It's
be
a
ready
it's a
on day
horrible
one.
premise, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not even a misunderstanding, right? Like, and I'm
That's what I
going
say. I
again.
think misunderstanding is the wrong word. I was
I'm
being too
like,
nice.
no, yeah, that's the thing. And usually my boss, shout out to Will here, don't attribute to malice, which you can explain with stupidity. But either way you slice it, we're doing a disservice to what kills me is these are folks, and I was there. These are folks that will absolutely crush the job if given the right opportunity and the right training and the right expectations and level setting. And it's just, it takes a rare organization and even a rarer team within that organization to say, we're going to foster this, and it has to be something that's consciously done. It doesn't happen by mistake. It has to be like, listen, one of our KPIs or outcomes that we're going to obsess over is that we're going to be a monster factory. We're going to take people, we're going to train them, we're going to support them, encourage them, and empower them. And then, oh, wow, by happenstance, they're going to turn into absolute killers that, as you say, I think you put it eloquently a couple of pods ago, where you want to train them such that they can go anywhere, but you treat them so that they never want to leave. You
That's
hit
it.
that sweet spot. And I mean, that's the type of personnel that you want protecting your crown jewels, your PHI, your PII, your card holder data, etc. But unless it's done on purpose, and unless you have the leadership with the requisite mettle. Bad pun, but not really. Just the requisite
It fits perfect.
intestinal fortitude, as they used to say on the pro wrestling, right? Unless you have right leadership that's done on purpose for that purpose, it's almost an impossibility, especially in an industry that's already behind the eight ball in terms of being considered a cost center, right? We're already not attached to, in a lot of ways, either aligning with the business or at least being a revenue accelerator or a revenue steward at the very least. Like, hey, we'll keep what you have safe money wise. We do ourselves a disservice there. We're never going to get the cloud cover we need to then say, listen, give our folks some time to grow, and they're going to be phenomenal stewards of the organization. Yeah, misunderstandings too light.
You're right. Yeah, yeah. I was sometimes I try to watch my words
Sure,
and I'm a little
sure, but
too gentle, but I think you're right. If you are looking to build a cyber workforce for your organization, you have to be deliberate in the training and the
yes.
supervision. And like you said, the metrics and the expectations must be reasonable.
Mhm.
and achievable, right?
Yes.
And you could put them a little out, right?
Sure.
But being completely, in left field isn't going to do a service to you, your organization, or the people you're trying to not have turnover from, right? That you, like you said, you want them to stay there with institutional knowledge and build that. I want to ask you a question as somebody who lives this stuff day in and day out. So for those out there, I've seen enough chatter about this, and obviously my opinion on this.
Yeah.
As you giggle, you already know. But what is your opinion to those that say, I should say, to the commentary that comes up often, which is you can't possibly be entry level in cybersecurity.
Listen,
How do you handle that?
that again, that's part of where I came up with the gate busting and not gatekeeping. I think I said it the other day on, as a commentary to another pod I did where it was kind of like, again, reserving space for women in tech, right? So it's kind of like a corollary or ancillary to this conversation. And, it's knowledge work, right? It's not a bread line. Like if there's not enough slices of pie, you go back in there and you bake up more pie. And you come back out and you go, ta-da, like Wally does when he's showing off for Ava there. Totally been watching that movie too often. Can you tell? It's,
There are worse movies to watch with your little.
for sure. Of course, right? And it's,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and I said it was
Talk
the
about a
one that
cautionary tale that none of us are heeding right now.
that's what, honest to goodness,
Just saying.
and but my wife's like, "I don't understand," because it was my favorite, and then I think I said that, and of course, she's like, "Okay, now it's mine." And she's like, "I don't know what it says about the 2 of the 3 humans in this house love a dystopian tale, like, for more than anything." But I said, "Well, you know what you married, sweetheart." But, right? And so but you you put it out there, and it's really just understanding exactly like where you can craft value and what needs to be lines in the sand. And I think, as you said, the requirements and the fit for purpose and the general mindset, it's all just ships in the night passing over. There's no consensus of sitting down with the hiring manager and the HR department and going, let's craft something together that makes the aperture broad enough with guardrails where you're gonna not exclude a potential, gem field of, or gem mine, right? There's no fields unless, I don't know where I was going with that, but like a potential surplus of amazing talent that's gonna read these wish list descriptions and
Mhm.
go, no way. And it's almost like, it's false scarcity. It's really you're trying to craft like your job is the Hermes bag of jobs where you could, with again enough ingenuity and enough commitment on leadership's part to say, hey, we can hire for fit, we can train skill. And by the way, cyber skills are going to be different in 6 months. So definitely make sure you're hiring for fit, bring them on, treat them well, and then they're going to respond in spades. It's baffling to me why really it's the meme that we all see where it's the person on the bike and they put a stick in their own wheel and then they fall over and they're like, look what happened to me. How did this happen? Well, you did it to yourself there, Haas.
That's right.
I
That's
just
right.
don't, it baffles me. And I get passionate about this because it's also then leading to organizations that are a lot less secure than they should be or could be if they got their heads out of the collective clouds. I'll try to keep it PG. I'm trying to watch my
I
words
was
as
gonna
well.
go with sand, but
Sure.
but I'm with you. Somewhere between the top and the bottom,
Of course, somewhere where it shouldn't be. Your head is
where it shouldn't be.
somewhere where you're gonna lose oxygen, but you have a situation, then why would we do this to ourselves as an industry and then keep perpetuating the mythology and the falsehoods that turn great people away?
'Cause it's fun to have a scapegoat, Omar. Come
Yeah,
on now. A
that's
lot of
truly what it is.
organizations need a place to it's true, right? Something went bad. Oh, we're gonna blame the cyber department. Well, okay, who put that together?
Yeah,
You did, but nobody wants
yeah,
to take that responsibility. So,
not at all.
for those Where do you see as a practitioner those areas that you can start people as entry level in certain areas with supervision, with
Mhm,
guidance, and with training? And I say that so I come from that background as a
mhm,
lawyer.
mhm,
And when I started, as would any lawyer, right? You can't just, okay, go be a lawyer, right? Law school teaches you how to think like a lawyer. The bar exam teaches you how to memorize and spill out garbage that necessarily isn't everyday practice and isn't what you learned in law school. And then everyday practice is like, oh, that's a whole lot of things no one taught me, right? As you go, including how to run a business and all of those things. And so when you start off as a young associate, if you are fortunate enough, you can't afford to do it, and you take on, say, something like a legal aid society or work like
mhm,
I did as a public defender or a state attorney, you do get files with real life consequences, right? On day one. I've got people
mhm,
when I was public defender, 200 files in jail facing criminal charges that may continue to do jail time if I cannot help them in the way that needs to be helped or whatever that case
mhm,
might be.
mhm,
And we did it where we had supervisors, here's your files. We had lots of training. They came in, here's what you're going to learn how
mhm,
to do. Here's how we do the system here. Here's whatever. But then when you try the cases, you bring your supervisor in because that's, the put up or shut up time. Let's see what you can do, but let's not harm the other person. Let's make sure we're
mhm,
protecting the goods as you would in
mhm,
cybersecurity and try your cases with that guidance, with a trial partner, with a supervisor, with an older attorney, well, a more experienced attorney, we'll say, right? And whether that's 1 year experience or 5 years experience, it's someone else with experience who has been doing it enough to share, like you say, the gate busting and let me
mhm,
show you how to do this, let's do it together,
mhm,
a kind of mindset, and you learn on the job. And being a lawyer isn't like, one of those jobs where you don't have great responsibility, right? We're the keeper of secrets. We help either businesses shut down or get established. We
sure.
help people with their estate planning. And if that goes wrong, that's a lot of litigation and money and time and energy spent. You could go to jail. There's so many different things that we do touch, but as an industry have figured out how do we do the training and the supervision if you find the right firm and the right place to be able to learn and that type of thing. And so to me, there's parallels to those types of activities that can be done in cyber. And that's why
Mhm.
I'm curious from you, what are those tasks or activities or kind of areas, say like GRC, that may have that nice area where you go, you know what, you can start here with
Mhm.
training and supervision, if done deliberately, as you point out, that where they can grow in that position and then become the future trainers and supervisors for the next group.
I think GRC is uniquely suited to be that beachhead. And what I mean by that is, I'm a living proof. I'm a career switcher. I came from sales, right? 12 years at this point, but again, started from financial advising, customer service, started with an MBA, really, and learned as I went, but made the switch. My current team here, we have two lawyers, essentially a data scientist, doctor of psychology, one person who's like more quote unquote normal that spent time in hospital workflows. So in the administration side of the hospital, he's invaluable for again bird dogging where we're going to go wrong and kind of right sizing what we're doing from a risk management perspective. Some classically trained cyber folks for sure, right? It's a mix. We're not saying throw out the baby with the bathwater, but GRC is that place where it's essentially you want it to be the place where cyber and the business start working hand in hand. There's reasons, of course, that you're gonna make sure that the business isn't breaking any laws, that it's adhering to the regulatory side of things, that it's taking a healthy take on risk, where it's not taking too many risks, but you're also being a business accelerator by engaging in good risks for the business, having that positive conception of risk, and then proving that you're doing the right things. None of that I've mentioned is truly where, hey, if I don't go to med school, I shouldn't be a doctor. That's for sure, right? You should learn how to doctor. And even in that profession, there's now years of, I want to see you do it under the supervision of more learned doctors. Sometimes, like you said, could be a year more, could be 5 years or 10 years, depending on attending or fellowship, sort of situation. And then there you go. That makes sense, but they're even adding fellowships in that arena to get, again, more hands-on, work and knowledge. If that profession was, hey, listen, unless you came to us fully cooked, we're not going to let you practice at all.
We'd
There'd
have
be
no doctors.
there'd be 6 doctors around, and
That's right.
and then and they'd be able to charge whatever the heck they wanted, and then we'd be a lot more sick people and dying people, and our quality of life would go down. Well, hold on, doesn't that sound like, with all the breaches that we hear in the news and just exactly our privacy just going out the window, the GRC is that place where, as long as, and this is, I think, where truly I'm going to start taking the blame, I think, in general or on behalf of leadership side of the house here, unless you have an actual scoped out, this is what we do day to day, or this is what we want to get done with this role,
Mhm.
then of course you're going to want someone to walk in off the street and be a ready-made superhero because you just haven't done the work as a leader, the work as a steward for the organization of saying, listen, this is the lane that I want to have the person join the team in.
Mhm.
And then we're ready for them, and we know the guardrails, we know what they're going to do, as well as you've done the hard work of saying what they're absolutely no way going to touch when they come in.
That's right.
But it
That's right.
takes being, like you said, deliberate and purposeful. And in a lot of cases, I think that, and again, this is just a vicious cycle because there's not enough time for leadership to take these cycles to sit there and go, hey, let's plan this out. Let's think about this, because they're short staffed, because they have a terrible intake process, or they don't want to take risks. Again, positive risks on newer, true entry level people to come in to the pipeline. And then you're just out there chasing these mythical unicorns, or you're letting, again, untrained. I'm not trying to rag on HR, but you're letting, folks that shouldn't be the sole writers of these job specs pull stuff from the internet and then say, here you go. Right. So what you can have in GRC is a set of lanes where, again, you just have to know what your business truly needs out of the GRC component in your program. And then you can slice that down to impact, but not harmful impact. They can help, but like the possibility or the blast radius, if they, for some reason, again, not maliciously, not ascribing malice, but if for some reason they just misstep, then you have a good supervisory set of skills or checks in the process to say, wait a second, let's double check that before you push that out, or before you send that to anyone, run it by me. But again, I think it's perpetuated, Alyson, by folks sometimes in leadership that themselves weren't given that grace to learn then the things about being a leader with guardrails and moving on up the chain there. So I think what you have to create is a lane where folks can get that hands-on experience, right, in a safe setting, to
Mhm.
then prove that you can walk the talk that we're pontificating about here. At least I'm doing the pontificating. I'm getting fired up about this because it's the thing. I was tired before we started talking about this, wasn't I? And then now, like
I love it. I love when
I
you get
got
amped up, and that's why I love this topic, because
uh,
it's something that we have talked about passionately, funny enough, separately and then together.
mhm,
And you know, it's absolutely important as we're seeing people not get jobs. I mean, we started this conversation, I know I did, with people. I went back and looked at it at least 2 years ago, and that's
okay,
only when I got in the industry. It was like 2.5 years
sure,
ago, and I
mm,
remember being at a conference for a one of the certification companies who won't be named, but at this big conference that they put on every year,
mhm,
and students came up to us and said, "Hi, can you look at my resume? I've been out for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 15 months. I have X, Y, and Z certifications. I can't get a job." And I was like, "Well, that's super odd." And it was people that had transitioned, but they had gotten the degree, they had taken all the certifications, they did all the things, but couldn't get the hands-on experience, right? And that's when the conversation started. And then I started talking to universities about, well, what are you doing to help the students with this process? And ultimately what it came back to over conversation of conversation is really the industry need, like you said, take the stick, put it down, don't stick it in your tire wheel, right? Stop trying to go rear over tea kettle. Like, let's not, like, like cause our own problems. But that is where it's we're not going to do it. We don't want to train, or cybersecurity just doesn't lend itself. And if doctors can figure it out, if lawyers can figure it out, this is an industry that needs to be able to figure it out, right? And we don't say this just hypothetically. So I'm going to kind of shift a little bit here, right? And so share, as I stumble through this, a big announcement. So this is something that Omar and I have been working on with a board of directors. And what we're about to announce, funny enough, is something that honestly had been discussed for a couple of years, but didn't realize what it was. We kept talking about the issue that we are now articulating here with a lot of thought and with deliberate, how do we fix the pipeline problem, right? It's not a skills gap. It's not certification lack. It's, how do we get real experience for real people so they can get the jobs, right? If the companies aren't going to change their job descriptions, you can't get to mid-level if you haven't had your entry level. So how do we fix the pipeline that doesn't exist? There is no pipeline. Like it's literally like Mario Brothers came by, pulled it up, and removed that section from
100%.
education or transition to mid-level job at entry-level pay. That's a whole nother conversation. Companies.
Yeah.
But so this is a conversation that had been ongoing. And prior to me leaving my last position, I had met with some folks here locally in Central Florida. And we kept having these conversations of how do we help these students? How do we get people in the jobs? And a couple of days after I left my position, it was like, I know the answer. And so we reached out, and it was, look, we have Legal Aid Society and we have the public defender's office and the state attorney's office, and people go there to get low or no cost services. They are legit, real services in the field for law. You're getting a lawyer, and young lawyers can come in and get the experience and actually handle real cases with real consequences for real people who need real help. And they get paid real money. None of this, you should keep working for free. Let's play on open source and see how you do internship stuff. Like, show me what you're doing on your GitHub. Okay, no, let's pay people for the services they are providing. You wouldn't ask the performers to come perform for free, right? The same thing, lawyers, doctors, cybersecurity folk, artists, insert career here, right? But pay these people to do a job. And I'm like, why don't we create essentially a legal aid society, but for cybersecurity, where we offer low or no cost services to nonprofits and small business qualifying businesses that are minority owned, women owned, veteran owned, that fit in those particular groups, that also work with critical community services where if they go down, it's going to hurt the community as a large, and make these services affordable and make real jobs where people are getting the real skills and they're being trained and supervised to do it. And so we're actually doing that. So this episode is not just about talk and us pontificating. Omar and I are part of a brand new organization. The website should hopefully be launched sometime next week. Well, the organization already exists. The organization was launched on January 2nd, but it has not gone public yet. The 501c3 is pending for this nonprofit. The website should go live next week with a full press release, courtesy of the podcast already, right? It is Cyber Mettle.
There we go.
There it is.
Nice.
So
Yep.
Cyber Mettle, as you can see, we're fixing our little pipeline here. What is amazing, and I'm sorry for those on the audio, I held up we have our little brochure, and you know what? I can put that brochure link in the video description so people can access it and see. We talk about the pipeline and the benefit. We actually have a board of directors of 11 people, many of which are leaders in the cybersecurity industry, including Dr. Sangurima. There you go, Omar.
Listen, thank you.
Including Omar. Yeah, no, but it was a lot of people that I have been lucky and fortunate enough to meet with over the last couple of years in my last position and talk to about this issue over and over. And it was like, what are we going to do? And it was like, here's what we're going to do. And everyone went, yes, we're going to do that. So we are excited. So, there's the landing page right now, but check back in a week or so at Cyber Mettle, METTLE, all one word, .org. We are dedicated to inspiring, hiring, and training the next generation of cybersecurity professionals and helping community-serving organizations reduce their cyber risk. So we're trying to fix both the fact that we know so many nonprofits and small businesses here in our county and in Central Florida, and it's going to hopefully be nationwide, that have been part of hacks, who have had breaches, who have had incidents, or who are next in line, right, to be, because they don't have the budget, the understanding, the appreciation of the services to be able to do it. And we want to provide those services and create real jobs. These are not unpaid internships at this point. These will be paid jobs at entry level with training, with supervision, providing services, at least as far as initial assessments go, ongoing assessments, and really helping organizations figure out where they are, where are they trying to get going, and how do we help them identify what those risks, what the vulnerabilities are, what the risks are, and ways to help them become more cyber metal, as it were.
I'm so excited. It's one of those things to talk a big game and be on the sidelines and not to discount that, because that sort of upswell is obviously where this was born out of. But it's a whole other thing to then say, listen, we have a through line or a mental vision of what can work. We've seen it in, as you say, in other professions. Why the heck can't we apply it here? The way you said, why would you want, you don't want a doctor practicing for free or a lawyer practicing for free. Why would we do this to other professionals? And it just made me think, of course I wouldn't, right? Like if I had something wrong and somebody's coming and going, no, it's free of charge, I'd be like, well, I'm going to die. Like this is, apparently this is it. This is how it ends. Or I'm
I
going to jail.
amputated your toe free of charge.
Thanks. Awesome. I'm already missing the ear. Like
Thanks for the gangrene. Gotta go.
I can't afford to lose more body parts. Like gotta keep the ones I have. I'm at that age. And it's just, or hey, I'm going to jail, right? Let me call my family and say, I got into a bit of a mix up and this free lawyer is totally leading me down a terrible path. And also, as we know, I think both of us are pretty keen on this aspect as well. The prospect of unpaid internships or unpaid labor disproportionately really puts folks out of the game that cannot afford to work for free. And that's, again, another form of gatekeeping where you're then passing over a potentially stellar crop of folks that could be amazing at this job, but can't be messing around with no unpaid internship nonsense.
Especially if they're going to those expensive schools and
Absolutely.
getting degrees and now can't get loans or are limited in the amount of loans. And even then, when they get out, what happens? They give you a 6-month grace period if you're lucky before your loans start kicking in.
I I think the biggest thing that runs in my head, and it was stark for me when my sister's kids were going through school and coming out and all that. I don't think right now, with what I was bringing to the table 12 years ago, I'd be able to break it. Just hard stop. And I was one of those who, before having the job, I said, because in my family, education's a silver bullet. So of course, what did I say? I'm going to get in the middle of a master's for cyber, get as many certs as I can humanly get my hands on. I didn't let that go, right? We're working on it, small baby steps. But back then it was everything I could. I convinced my now wife, like it'll slow down. That's a lie, but at least the certs wise. But you go in, and I was doing, like you said, everything right, getting my news, starting to really dive in, doing home labs, everything that you can give to a mentee now, but it's just not working. So there's a lack there. There's a gap there. And I'm so proud to be part of something with, again, a group of killers. That board of directors is just top to bottom, just absolutely monstrous in the best way possible, right? Where you're
Yeah.
it reminds me of like the All-Stars, or they're facing in Space Jam, right? Like, wait a second, like
Yeah.
we got the dream
Space
team here. This is amazing. And that's aging myself and where my head's at. And that want to contribute their time because they all I think are fed up of an industry turning into something that it wasn't when all of us in our respective journeys hopped in to this stream and this timeline. Like I said again, I don't get in now with what I was bringing to the table back then. That's insane. Again, at the same level. I'm not saying like, I couldn't walk into, I hope that I wouldn't be able to walk into my job now, right? If that's all, like but like it's entry level coming in trying to break into the field. I don't get in. Something changed.
Yeah. And not for the better.
No, and it's not been
I mean, the
that long.
companies can't. Yeah, no, it's not been that long, and companies aren't benefiting from this. They may think financially on the short term, but
And people's privacy. And now, as with some of the guests that we've had on recently, and just the thoughts that we've had, critical parts of industry, food, water supply, healthcare, heating in the winter, and in those months there, it's not getting better, and we're turning people away that want nothing more than an opportunity to say, "Train me up, I'll get after it."
put me in, coach.
Yeah. How do you not?
Right.
I just, yeah, that
Like you say, hire for fit and then train and
period.
treat them well.
Period. And they're
Right.
going to be some of there's folks. Yeah, it just baffles me because it stands as such anathema to like where my head is at here, and just finding those like-minded folks. But again, with that bend towards practicality, which is what I'm so proud of. It's just, and it gave me a sense of, it came together so quickly where it's almost like everyone was like, yes, right. Each and everyone brought
Everybody
their
was in
pieces.
sync. That's
Mhm.
right. It was
Mhm.
like a clock. It was like one of those German cuckoo clocks where everybody you have to have the right
Yep.
cogs in the right
Yes.
places.
Yep.
And it just came together so quickly, and not because it was rushed, but because it was ready, and it's
Yes.
ready for this time period,
Yep.
and it needs to happen.
Yes.
And that's why we didn't announce it right when we filed it, because we wanted a website and we wanted to get our 501(c)(3) pending with the IRS
Mhm.
so that people can make donations to the organization should they want to. We'll be talking to big companies and foundations and those types of things
Mhm.
to get it up and running, because it needs to be funded. It's a nonprofit,
Mhm.
so
Sure.
that we can hire entry level people for real salaries with real benefits. It's not going to be, oh, come do free labor and then you stick it on your resume. No, we want to hire you as an entry level and train you. And with the idea of, we're going to give you roots and wings.
Mhm.
So, unlike a big company that wants to train to keep you in house, our goal is to train you so that you get the skills, and you will be not only you'll be highly competitive in the market, not just because you have numbers of years of experience, but you're going to have very much real experience that you've been
Mhm.
trained by other professionals in the field who have decided, no, you're not my competition. You're my colleague that I want to
It's
work alongside.
absolutely just bake more pie. This is not,
Bake
it's
more
not a
pie.
zero-sum game. We
Correct.
don't have the Gordon Geckos of the world here running, which seem
Cyber's
to
not
be,
going away.
it's
And
not.
especially when you blend in AI security, there's plenty more to do for the right amount of bodies in the right amount of places. It just
Yeah.
is. And it's, like you said, we're seeing people saying, I don't have enough people on my team. We also don't have the right number. And so hopefully this will start a very big shift in the industry and lead the way for, here's how we can do it. And we're doing it. And now you can do it too for your organization, except you get to keep them in house. Should you want? I mean, we're happy if someone wants to stick around at a nonprofit and keep and train the next level. We're good with that too. But we totally get it if they're like, I want to go work for Google. You know,
Listen,
please,
no,
please do.
no one will be prouder than us
That's
to
right.
see that,
That's
and
right.
to see the lasting impact. And finally, we can reinvert this weird cycle in the industry where we're not eating our young anymore, or we're not just closing down doors, and we're not killing opportunity, because eventually, as I've said on a couple of different times we've sat together, that's eventually going to be the death of talent, period, in this industry, if this is not, if we don't get on another timeline here, if we don't get on another path. Because where the heck do our mid-level, senior level executives and leaders come from? The sky, the ether, our
We're
imagination?
cannibalizing
That
ourselves.
that's we're absolutely completely feasting on our own pipeline for nothing other than short-sighted, I think, like, appeals to truisms where, sure, yeah, there's a skill. No, it's utter nonsense. There's people there, there's skills that we can impart. What the heck is going on? And that finally having a focus for that, I think, discord in my gut, that angst of what are we doing here is something I'm just deeply looking forward to contributing to. I cannot wait for this to kick off, and then we start just changing the industry.
I'm very much looking forward to it as the executive director, and I am honored and beyond thrilled with the fact that you are so much part of this, that the people on our board of directors, that are joining us on this journey and
Wild
are very
board.
involved. It's
Yes.
a great board. Everybody's going to be featured on the website. So please, when the website is up in a week, check them all out. And if you want to know more about any of this, I know I have posted my recent hiring up newsletter was
Mhm.
all about how to create these types of training sessions. It was no secret of what we're building here. This is not a big secret. Just didn't want to send people to a website that didn't exist yet. That's all.
Sure. Yeah.
And have our ducks in a row. We want to be
Mhm.
ready to go so you know that we weren't just an idea or a theory, but no, we mean what we say and we are going to do this. And we are doing it.
Yeah. We're not we're not vibe
We've
coding.
already raised. No,
We're not
we're
vibe
definitely not
coding a
vibe coding.
solution. Right? We're
No,
just not like, yeah,
no.
yeah.
In fact, we've already had our first, we've already had a couple of companies offer large, significant donations to us. So once we get our 501c3, those will go through. So they are pending that 501c3 waiting so that they can get their contribution. But we've already got committed companies who say, yes, we want you to do this. And we already have partners in the community saying, we know what companies need your services immediately,
Big
the
time.
type of thing.
Mhm.
So the fact that we're able to do this and meet two needs at once, we're really, as I say, it's killed two birds. I hate killing birds with stone. We're going to meet two different needs at once, right?
Exactly.
With the same
Dual purpose.
solution, dual purpose solution. And the board is amazing and you guys will be able to check it out on cybermettle.org. And I'm going to shift a bit, but not really shift. So why don't you share with the audience that if they want to learn more in person, where they can find you coming up next?
I'm super excited. It's one of those things where, again, right? It parts of my career, meeting folks like you, meeting folks like the folks on the board, a lot of some of my heroes that I'm getting to work alongside. It's pretty trippy. This is kind of in that vein where, you know, being obviously a fan of NIST, again, probably should have had that I Heart NIST shirt. I get a second lost opportunity here, but I'll get it right. And maybe I wear it to the event. But the Nice Con is happening in Philadelphia end of May, beginning of June. That's always, a long-term affair because they have obviously the national initiative for cybersecurity education out of NIST just serves so many different pockets of this overarching need that they need to put it on for a few days. It's not like we're just trying to get more vendor swag sold, right? No knock on those types of events, but this is this is something that's absolutely deeply needed. So I on a lark, I said, you know what, give it more gas. Let me put in for to present at this event. It was a long shot in my mind because again, this is I've been reading about NICE in this. This is how we translate skills from roles at my 9 to 5 is the NICE framework. It's how we develop get our development plans on track because it's the standard for some cogent skill based role setting. And lo and behold, I told them that I want to talk about gate busting and not gatekeeping, and here we are. They came back and said yes. It was funny. It was one of those long enough time periods where I forgot I sent it in. I just said, put it out into the universe, and then let again, we don't kill birds. We want to see them fly. Like let the idea fly
Exactly.
to the powers that be. I got the email. I had a jolt through me. I was so excited. So June 1st, I believe, through the 3rd. I don't know exactly which day yet. They're obviously hammering out other speakers. I'm excited to meet the other speakers there, right? It's like, oh wow, I get to play soccer with Barcelona. Like it's getting onto the pitch of like, oh, these are wow, look who it is. So I'm gonna be going through a workshop of how exactly folks within today, tonight, this afternoon, within your organization, you can start setting the tone and getting hands on with how to unravel what you could be doing to yourself in terms of the cybersecurity personnel and skill shortage. I wanted to not just talk about the issue. It was I'll maybe a little inside baseball here, but one of the things that came back on the iterative feedback was, "Hey, Omar, you don't need to spend so much time setting the stage. Please devote more time to the hands-on portion of your workshop." Which to me, if folks at NICE are saying, "Hey, you don't need to set up the problem statement before you go in," that tells me that this is like,
Huge
air
problem.
pollution. Like, look outside. Is it smoggy? Yeah. You don't have to explain that the air is polluted. You just take a look out your window and you go, that looks murky and it's midday, probably an issue there. So I'm so excited to be, giving this talk. It's in Philadelphia. Please, if you're anywhere near the area, come on in. I'd love to talk to you. One of my favorite things at these conferences is just to go and learn from other folks and sit and chat. And, this is a passion that we all share in this industry, in this profession. You have to have, you have to have a drive for it, right? Like it just asks a lot of you some days or some weeks or some months. So you have to love the game a little bit. So I'm
Oh, yeah.
excited to be talking to compatriots that come out, and hopefully, right, to be sharing the good work that we're doing at the Cyber Mettle Foundation to solve this problem.
I love it. I think that's a great place to tie it up. I mean, if you all have comments, things you have questions about, you want us to explore further, if you want to know more about Cyber Mettle, the organization, or Cyber Mettle, the podcast, or certifications or anything else, we are here to be a service. That is the heart of actually why we started, funny enough, Cyber Mettle, the podcast,
Yeah.
which then turned into Cyber Mettle Inc., which is the 501c3 pending organization. So it is amazing the seeds you plant and then watching them grow relatively quickly, which is great.
It's going to be a seminal moment that I'm always going to look back on. I think it was like on a weekend and I said, "Hey, we should do a we should just do a podcast, right? Like just screw it.
I'll
Let's
never
go."
forget that email. I'm like, "Man, I ain't got time for a podcast." And you're like, "Yeah, we're doing it. I got this." I'm like,
Let's go.
"Okay,
So they'll figure it out on the way, right? Get in. Like, let's, like
that's right."
and here we
See,
are.
hands-on learning. It's all about training someone. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm
Me
happy
neither.
to be here.
Yeah. Same here. We're figuring out together. Let's go. Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
See what support and friendship can get you.
Wild.
Colleagues are
Wild.
awesome.
Yep.
So, and
Absolutely.
I appreciate you very much and everything
Likewise.
you've put into the podcast, the organization, and our board of directors. I cannot thank you all enough. It's like I said, it is wild, it is amazing, and we are excited for y'all to follow along. Check out the press release that will be coming out soon, and you'll get all the details that you need. But until then, I'm gonna leave it to Omar. You always do a great finish.
Well, I mean, how do I follow that up except to say grateful as well, appreciative to be on this journey. And in the interim, as always, keep it cyber metal. Take care.